Well of Radiance is the new best damage super on Warlock. You might have seen the shot I have posted with me getting 7.3 million damage on the Witness in one DPS phase. So now is the question, how is Well of Radiance the new best damage super on Warlock? Before I show you the build, let's start at the beginning. Back in the day, I remember when I was raiding on my Warlock character, everybody else was using damage supers when it comes to DPS. Hunters with golden guns, Titans, Pyrigel, T-Crashing. But if a Needlestorm or Nova flies at the boss and you're the only Warlock on your team, be prepared for the looks of your teammates. There was a quote, born to Nova Bomb, forced to well, or something like that. But everything changed in this episode thanks to the new exotic buffs to Sanguine Alchemy. But Dato 4x surges are only 3% more damage compared to 3x surges, and the marking damage buff is only 10%. My Star Eater Nova Bomb deals 700k. Calm down, calm down. I'm not done yet. Put the pitchforks down. Here's the important part about Well. So if you didn't know, if you are the caster of Well of Radiance, your weapons will count as super ability damage. That means if you have an arc weapon in your hand, your gun will count as an arc super ability damage. With this information, we can start cooking. Here's how we can use this detail to maximize our DPS gains. Number 1. Facet of Courage. Facet of Courage will give us 10% more damage with our light abilities to enemies that are affected by a darkness debuff. Number 2. The artifact perk Conductive Cosmic Crystal. Arc abilities, void abilities and Dark Ether Reaper weapons deal 5% increased damage against enemies affected by stasis debuffs. We can boost it with the tonic up to 8% for abilities and 10% for Dark Ether weapons. And now, there should be some alarm bells ringing in your head right now. Does the ability buff and Dark Ether weapons buff stack with each other if I'm a well caster? Mr. Llama was also asking this question and made a video about that, and I highly recommend watching his video here. But to answer the question, yes, it does. Number 3. The artifact perk Arc Compounding. Arc Compounding will increase the arc damage by 15% against blinded enemies. Question is now, how can we consistently apply the blind debuff? The answer? Exdirus. The moth will blind enemies. And to trigger the moth spawn, all we need is hit the boss 2 times with the Exdirus. Okay, so how much more damage are we talking? Well, let me break it down. 25% will come from Surges, another 25% from Radiant, 15% from the debuff, 10% from the marking, another 10% from Facet of Courage, 8% from Cosmic, another 10% also from Cosmic, and lastly 15% from Arc Compounding. Everything combined, we are dealing almost 3 times more damage. Bittersweet. With this amount of buff stacking, we are dealing more damage on this setup than running a 6x Star Eater Nova Bomb. Now with all those important information, I've created the ultimate support DPS Warlock build. Let's first go over the weapons. Our first choice in the kinetic slot is Liturgy with Envious Arsenal and Chill Clip. This is the main way to get Facet of Courage and Conductive Cosmic online. In the energy slot, we are using Exdirus. Exdirus is gonna provide us the blinding debuff, so we can deal 15% more damage thanks to Arc Compounding. And lastly, for the hero in the heavy slot, we are using Bittersweet with Envious Arsenal and Bait and Switch. I am running 2 loadouts because you need to swap supers to obtain the ×4 surges from Sanguine Alchemy. Let's talk about the DPS loadout first. This is the loadout you should swap to after you placed your Well of Radiance. We are running the Prismatic subclass. The only important setup we need is our Arc Super, Courage and Hellion. Everything else is not mandatory. But for the rest of the fragments, I'm running Facet of Dawn, Facet of Protection, Facet of Ruin and Facet of Hope. Now to the armor mods and exotic choice. On the helmet, we are running Powerful Friends, so our teammates gain armor charge if we pick up orbs mid DPS, 1 heavy ammo finder and 1 heavy ammo scout to share heavy ammo bricks if they proc and to keep the progress bar of the finder. On the gloves, we have 2 arc dexterity and 1 stasis dexterity mods. Thanks to the Envious Arsenal, we don't need to reload our guns, so we opt for more handling to smooth out the rotation. Next is the chest piece. We are using Sanguine Alchemy. Sanguine is gonna give us the surges ×4 if we're standing in a well or rift, and we are gaining 10% more damage thanks to the marking mechanic. For the mods, we are running 2 arc reserves and 1 resistant mod. Reserves are here to increase our total damage, but if you're not experienced, I recommend you to swap those for a resistant mod. On the boots, we are using 3 stasis surges because we are getting our arc surges from Sanguine, so we are free to use stasis surges on the boots to increase our damage. Important detail here, if the DPS phase is 30 seconds or less, or you have a second Warlock on well, run stasis surges. If the DPS phase is longer than 30 seconds and you don't have a second well, use 3 arc surges. For our class item, we are using 3 time dilations to extend the timer on our armor charges. Let's now talk about our second loadout, the neutral game. For the neutral game, we are running the solar subclass with Well of Radiance. For our abilities, we are running a healing rift, the snap melee, and a healing grenade. For the aspects, we are using Touch of Flame and Hellion. In the fragment slots, we have Ember of Benevolence, Ember of Torches, Ember of Searing, and Ember of Solace. The goal is to spam our healing nades and rifts to provide a lot of sustain for us and our teammates. And thanks to Ember of Benevolence, we regenerate those abilities pretty fast. We have 3 sources to proc Benevolence: the healing rift, the healing nade, and our snap if a teammate is next to us thanks to Ember of Torches. With Ember of Searing, we are getting our melees a tiny bit faster via Hellion, and Ember of Solace is here to extend the restoration and radiant effect we are getting. Next up is our exotic and armor mods choices. On the helmet, we are using the exotic Speaker's Sight. Our healing grenade will spawn a healing turret, which will provide restoration for us and our teammates, and harmonizes with our fragment Ember of Benevolence. Our mod choices are 2 heavy ammo finder and 1 heavy ammo scout, so we are providing our teammates with heavy bricks. On the gloves, we are running Focusing Strike, Heavy Handed, and Impact Induction. With those mods, if we hit something with our snap, we are getting class and grenade energy back, and if we kill something with it, we are also spawning an Orb of Power. For our chest piece, we are running 2 arc reserves and 1 resistant mod. As I mentioned earlier on the first loadout, if you are not experienced, I recommend swapping the reserves for resist mods. On our boots, we have 2 scavenging mods, 1 for stasis, 1 for arc, and we are also running recuperation to recover some HP if we are collecting an Orb of Power. For our class item, we have Reaper to spawn an Orb of Power if we kill something after using our class ability, special finishers to create special bricks on demand, and proximity ward to gain an overshield while performing a finisher. Of course, we gotta talk about our artifact choices. The 3 most important ones are Conductive Cosmic Crystal, Arc Compounding, and Concussive Reload. Thanks to Conductive Cosmic and Arc Compounding, our Bittersweet reaches an absurd amount of damage, and with Concussive Reload we apply 15% weakening debuff for free on our GLs. How do we execute this setup? First, start with placing down your well, then swap to the DPS Loadout, start the rotation with 2 exterior shots into 1 Liturgy, then swap to your Bitter and Sweet and do a 4 GL shot burst. After that, repeat the cycle. 2 exteriors, 1 Liturgy, 4 Bittersweet. I named this rotation the Bitter Cold Moth. But why should I not dump my GL mag? Number 1. Higher total damage. Depending on the boss distance, your 5th GL shot and higher may not receive the bonus damage from the stasis effect, because Chill Clip only lasts for 4 seconds, so you are losing combined 30% worth of damage buffs. On top of that, you take more advantage of the moth cooldown spawn of your exteriors. Number 2. Autopilot bait and switch. With this rotation, you don't need to manage your bait and switch timers. All you need to do is focus on the rotation and rhythm, and the rotation will reproc bait and switch perfectly for you. But there are scenarios when it's better to dump the rest of the Bittersweet mag. If the DPS phase is extremely short, dumping the rest of the GL mag is better than doing the 4-shot cycle. For example, Explicator Plates, Caretaker Plates, and Single Tether Sanctified. Enough with the yapping. Here are some clips that will show you the potential of the build. At least use it, you know. Just set up.
Still can't believe I did this trade for like 3 months, happily wearing solo sneakers. 1.7 mil with this one. 2.
3. That's it for today. Appreciate you for watching the video, and I hope you have a beautiful day. See you at the next video.